I used to work with a guy named Ray, forklift operator third shift at a distribution center outside Cincinnati. Ray drove a truck that was older than some of the guys we hired. Same lunch every day, thermos, 2 sandwiches wrapped in the same brand of foil his wife bought in bulk from Costco. Nobody at that warehouse thought twice about Ray. Ray retired 2 years ago. There was a going-away lunch for him in the break room, sheet cake, the good soda, the whole thing. And somewhere in there the plant manager stood up and said, "Oh, and Ray bought his daughter a house." Everybody laughed. Somebody yelled, "Yeah, right, Ray, sure you did." Because that's the joke, right? Quiet guy, old truck, must be broke. The manager wasn't laughing though. He said, "No, I'm serious. He wired the money yesterday. Cash. No mortgage." The room went quiet for a second. You could actually feel it. That specific kind of quiet where everyone's doing math in their head at the same time, trying to make it make sense. And it just won't. A forklift operator. Third shift. Same truck since work key. Nobody saw it coming because there was nothing to see. Ray never looked like a man who was building something. He looked like a man standing still. Real wealth mostly gets built as a tree gets built. The first few years, all the real work happens underground. In roots nobody can see. Most people mistake visible progress for real progress. Trees don't. So what if the thing that's supposed to feel exciting, actually building financial security, is supposed to feel like almost nothing is happening? There are 5 things guys like Ray do that almost nobody notices. None of them look impressive. Every one of them grows a root. Let me tell you something about a paycheck. By the time it lands in your account, it's already spoken for. Rent's got a claim on it. The car payment's got a claim on it. The electric company, the guy at the grocery store, your kid's orthodontist, you're the one who earned it. Yet somehow, you're the last person who gets paid. And most months, by the time your turn comes, there's nothing left. I knew a woman named Denise. Worked the front desk at a dental office outside Tampa. Nothing dramatic about her paycheck, nothing dramatic about her life. Just a normal job, normal bills, normal month after normal month. For years, she told herself the same thing a lot of us tell ourselves. Once things settle down, I'll start putting something away. Things never settle down. That's not a Denise problem, by the way. That's just what happens when saving gets scheduled for after everyone else already got paid. So what actually changed? Not a raise, not a bonus, not some big financial awakening. A Tuesday afternoon, 11 minutes on her phone, $30, set to move out of her checking account the same day her paycheck landed, straight into a savings account at a different bank. One she couldn't see every time she checked her balance, not whatever's left at the end of the month. First, $30 won't change your life. Changing the order will. Here's the math. Over 20 years, you contribute about $29,000. Left alone in something like a low-cost index fund, it can grow to roughly $65,000. That gap isn't Denise being smart. That's time doing what time does once you stop getting in its way. So here's what to actually do. This week, not next month. Open your banking app right now. Set up one automatic transfer. Same day your paycheck hits, into an account at a different bank than the one you use every day. $25, $75. The number barely matters. What matters is it happens before you decide anything else with that money. That's what Denise was really buying, if you think about it. Not a bigger savings account. A little less panic every payday. Ray never called this paying himself first. I doubt the man ever heard the phrase in his life. But quiet wealth isn't about looking rich, it's about waking up without panic, and that starts with one root, going in the ground, before any of the others ever get the chance. Mark didn't lose motivation because he got lazy. He lost it 3 weeks after telling everyone about his plan. I don't think that's a coincidence. There's something that happens when you say a goal out loud to your brother-in-law at Thanksgiving over coffee with a coworker. Your brain registers it almost like you already did the thing. You didn't do the thing. You just talked about it. I saw this happen with a couple I knew, Mark and Priya, outside Columbus. Mark decided he was finally going to get serious, pay off the last of his student loans, build a real emergency fund. 6 months of expenses, no more living one car repair away from a crisis. He was fired up, told his parents at Sunday dinner, told his college buddies, told his sister on the phone for 40 minutes straight. For about 3 weeks, that excitement carried him. Then it didn't. His dad, not trying to hurt anything, just being his dad, said, "You sure you need to be that aggressive? You're 34. Live a little." One of his buddies joked he was turning into one of those finance guys. Nobody meant any harm. But it landed the way it always lands. A small, quiet permission slip to ease off. Priya did the opposite, without even planning to. She wanted to max out her HSA contributions for the year. Not exactly dinner table material anyway, so she just didn't mention it. Not a secret. Just nothing to say yet. 6 months later, Mark asked how she was doing on her goal. She'd already hit it. No pep talks. No accountability partner. Nobody got the chance to hand her a reason to slow down, because nobody knew there was anything to slow down. Here's what's easy to miss. This was never really about other people being negative. Every person who hears your plan brings their own money history into the room with them. Sometimes what they bring is discomfort, because your discipline quietly asks a question about their choices they didn't sign up to answer. Nobody says that part out loud. It just shows up as "Are you sure?" or "Don't be so extreme." So here's what to actually do. Pick one thing you're currently working on. One real decision already in motion. For the next 30 days, tell nobody. Not your closest friend. Not the coworker who asks how it's going. Just let it live in the space between you and the decision. Watch what happens to how clear it feels once there's no audience left to perform it for. Ray never announced anything either. Not the savings, not the house paid off 9 years early. I used to think that was just Ray being private. Now I think it was the second route, the one that only survives because nobody's standing on it yet. Do this before you read another word. Pull up your bank statements, right now on your phone. Last 90 days, every card, every account. We'll get to why in a second. First, just open the app. Here's why. There was a guy I knew, Tom, who ran the loading dock at my old job. Made decent money. Not a big spender, by any stretch. One Sunday, mostly out of boredom if I'm honest, he actually did this. Went through 90 days of statements, not just the obvious stuff. Everything. A gym membership he hadn't used in 14 months. A streaming service that started as a free trial during COVID and just kept billing him. $40-some a month for over 2 years. An extended warranty on a laptop that had already died and been replaced. A storage unit. $62 a month. Holding furniture from an apartment he moved out of 5 years ago. None of those, on their own, would have changed anything. That's exactly why he never noticed them. Add it up, though, and Tom was quietly bleeding out about $200 a month. Things that weren't serving the life he was actually living anymore. He didn't cancel any of it that Sunday, by the way. He just sat there for a minute. Looked at the number. Said, mostly to himself, "I could have done this 5 years ago." Then he closed the laptop and went to bed. It took him 4 more months to actually cancel the gym. Tom wasn't really paying for Netflix anymore. He was paying for the fact that he'd stopped paying attention. And it's not just subscriptions that do this. It's the job you're not sure you even like anymore, that you keep out of pure momentum. That stuff has a cost too. You just can't see it on a statement. So you already pulled up your accounts? Go through them now. Split everything into 2 piles. Things actually serving the life you're living. And things just surviving because canceling takes more effort than you've spent yet. That second pile isn't a list of things you need. It's a list of things running on nothing but inertia. Before the week's out, cancel one. Not the easiest one. The one that's been sitting there longest without earning its place. Ray's truck was from 2014. Drove it the whole time I knew him. right up until he retired. I used to think that was just Ray being cheap. It wasn't. Every dollar he didn't spend keeping up appearances was a dollar that got to stay underground, doing the one job that actually mattered. If you're over 40 and just starting to take this seriously, there's a specific kind of dread that shows up. You do the math in your head. Compare yourself to the guy who started at 25, and the gap looks wide enough to make the whole thing feel kind of pointless. Why bother now? That question makes sense. It's also built on a misunderstanding that's cost people more than they realize. I think about two brothers up in Michigan. Their dad passed away, left them each about $51,000. Not life-changing money, but not nothing. The younger one, Dale, worked as a shift supervisor at a plant. Nothing about his life said financially sophisticated. What Dale understood from one conversation with an older guy at his church was this: money sitting still is money losing a fight it doesn't know it's in. Within a month of getting the check, he moved the whole thing into a plain, boring, low-cost index fund, set the dividends to reinvest. Didn't touch it. Now, I'll be honest with you, Dale wasn't made of stone. In March of 2020, when everything cratered, he logged in, saw the number, and actually filled out the form to sell. Had it right there on the screen. Cursor over the button, he just didn't click it. Closed the laptop instead. Went and did something else for a while. That's it. That's the whole heroic moment. Not some iron will. Just a guy who almost did the one thing that would have cost him everything, and happened to close the laptop instead of hitting submit. His older brother spent his half over about 3 years. A truck. A kitchen remodel. A loan to a friend that never came back. Nothing reckless exactly. Just a string of decisions that each made sense in the moment. 10 years later, Dale's account had grown into something that changed what his kids' lives looked like. Not because Dale was smarter, because Dale understood the one thing his brother missed. He wasn't the one doing the heavy lifting. The system was. He just pointed the money in one direction and got out of its way. You're not racing the clock. You're recruiting it. Once money's sitting inside something that compounds, actually left alone, not checked weekly, not yanked out every time the news gets scary, time stops being the enemy. It becomes the mechanism. It works while you're asleep. On the days you forget the account even exists, which, honestly, are usually its best days. Here's what to do this week. Find money sitting somewhere doing nothing. A savings account earning basically zero. Cash parked in the same spot for 2 years. A 401k contribution you paused and never restarted. Move some of it. Doesn't have to be all into something that's actually working. Then leave it alone. You're not managing money at that point. You're recruiting time. The deepest feeling isn't buying something. It's the morning you realize you no longer have to worry about being able to. Here's the strange part about this last one. Everything we've talked about so far says the same thing. Hold tighter. Spend less. Protect what you're building. And this last rule points the other way entirely. Once the sequencing's right, the plans are quiet, the dead weight's gone, there's a real temptation to lock the whole thing down. Every dollar leaving without a measurable return starts to feel like a threat. That feels like discipline. It isn't, not always. There's an old idea, way older than personal finance as a category. A farmer too scared to plant seed, worried about a bad harvest, guarantees himself a small harvest, every time. Hoarding the seed doesn't protect against risk. It just guarantees the outcome he was trying to avoid. I think about a woman named Carol. A retired accountant, lived a couple of towns over from my aunt in Ohio, 30-some years doing other people's books. Careful with every dollar. Most people in her position, once they retire, pull the circle in tighter. Carol did the opposite. Every Tuesday afternoon, she'd sit at her kitchen table with whoever in the neighborhood needed help. A young couple confused by their first mortgage statement. A widow who'd never once looked at the household finances and suddenly had to. A kid drowning in loan paperwork nobody had explained to him in plain English. She didn't charge for any of it. Now, I'm not going to pretend this all worked out beautifully for everyone. Carol sat with something like 20 people over those years. Most of them she never heard from again. Helped them once, they said thanks, life moved on. That's perfectly normal. Nobody owes you a callback. But one of them mentioned her to an employer who needed a part-time consultant. And one kid called her 3 years later, just to say that hour at her kitchen table had done more for him than 4 years of college. 2 people. Out of 20. Carol wasn't running the math on it. If she had been, she might have stopped after the first dozen went nowhere. She didn't stop. That's the only part of this story that actually matters. Here's what to do this week. And it can't be money. Money's the easy version of this, and the easy version isn't really the point. Find one person stuck on something financial you understand better than they do. How a credit card actually works. What compounding looks like laid out on paper. Sit with them for an hour. Not to look like you've got it figured out. Just to hand over something you know and not keep score. Ray did this too, as it turns out. I only found out after he retired. Half the guys on that loading dock had sat in his truck at some point while he walked them through setting up their first retirement account. Nobody talked about it. It just happened. Here's the thing about Ray and Denise and Dale and Carol. None of them were unusually smart. What they had was the willingness to do work that produces nothing to look at for a long time. That's the hard part nobody tells you. It's not that saving is hard, it's that it feels like nothing's happening. We want the trunk to move. When it doesn't, we assume it's broken and go looking for something louder instead. It's not broken. That's just what root growing looks like. Maybe nobody ever taught you this stuff. That's not a door that closed on you. The tree doesn't care how old you were when you planted it. It only cares whether you left it alone long enough to grow. So here's what to actually do. 3 things. This week. Set up one automatic transfer, same day your paycheck lands, into a different bank than you're checking. $25. That's it. This month, cancel one subscription you forgot you were paying for, and pick one plan you're working on and stop talking about it for 30 days. This quarter, find money sitting somewhere doing nothing and move it into something that compounds. Then leave it alone. Ray wasn't collecting money. He was collecting quiet mornings, the kind where Monday didn't feel like something to survive. So before you go, think about the one thing you already know you should have cut 8 months ago. What's it actually costing you every Monday to keep carrying it? If this landed, stick around. There's more coming.